I'm Andrea Giles, and you're listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, episode number 56, Closure. Hello, and welcome to the Heal from Infidelity podcast, where courageous women learn not only to heal from their spouse's betrayal, but to become the boldest, truest, most decisive, and confident versions of themselves ever. If you know there's more for you than the life you're currently living, but don't quite know how to get there, you are in the right place. Stick around to learn how to create a life that will knock your own socks off. Is it possible? It is, and I'm here to show you how. I'm your host, Andrea Giles. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Hello, everybody. Back with another one, episode number 56. I hope you're doing well. I hope you are finding the podcast useful. This week, we're going to be talking all about closure. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and jump on in here. So you have heard me say many times that our brains love certainty. We like to know stuff. So it makes perfect sense to us that we crave closure, right? It makes sense that we want to know how to wrap things up in a bow and a tidy bow and be able to set it aside. What is closure? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, it means the feeling or act of bringing an unpleasant situation, time, or experience to an end so that you are free to start new activities. Sounds pretty good, right? We want to wrap it up, make it look pretty, tidy it up, put an end to it, that tough time in our life. Here's the problem, though. We usually wait for another person to give us closure, which actually means we could be waiting a very long time. So if you go back to that definition, what I find is interesting is it says the feeling or act of bringing an unpleasant situation to an end. It does not say when somebody comes to you and says, I'm so sorry for the pain that I have inflicted upon you. Can you please forgive me? And this is me trying to give closure. Nope, it does not say that, because we would be waiting a really long time. Okay, so we usually want to hear from our spouse or our ex-spouse that they are sorry for what they have done, for what they did. We want to know why they did it. We want to make sense of it in our brain. But many of my clients never get it. Some of them actually get blamed for the things that spouse did. If you only did this and this and this better, I would not have had to do this thing, right? There's not a lot of closure in that, the kind of closure my clients are looking for. So last week, I was working with a client who wrote a long letter to her soon-to-be ex. They are in the divorce process, and she wrote him a long letter. She said that she didn't know if she was going to give it to him or not. Now, what this letter was, it was her trying to get closure. So, because I'm a coach, and this is what I do, I asked her a ton of questions. I asked her, why do you want to give it to him? And she said that she's hoping for some better understanding and maybe an apology. I said, why do you not want to give it to him? Because he may not respond the way she wanted him to and end up feeling even more hurt. In the end, she decided not to give him the letter. Now, let me tell you what's important here, okay? We look for someone else to validate our experience. Okay, some of my clients do get that. Some of my clients do get an apology. Their spouse owns all of it, but so many don't. They get the opposite. So then what? How are they supposed to get closure? How are they supposed to let go of all the things that happened and move on? For the client I worked with last week, she decided she did not want to leave closure up to him, whereas he had shown her over and over that he is not the most trustworthy person. She decided it was a much better bet to give herself the job of closure because she got to determine what it looked like on her terms, not on his. So what does this look like? First, I want you to think about the actual situation. Some of you listening may not have an actual infidelity situation, but maybe there's something else that you want closure for. Some other relationship, a job, anything that has come to an end. What's the situation? I want you to think about it. Now, various people will have their own version of what happened. You will have yours too. They will have theirs. in my situation with my first husband, I would be waiting a very long time for closure as he died before I ever got a real apology or true acknowledgement of all that I had experienced at his hand. So, what have I had to do? I've had to decide on the story. I've had to decide on the story that empowers me. So, let's go back to your situation. What are some possibilities? Let's look, okay? Some possibilities that you might use to give yourself closure are stories like this. I just wasn't a good enough wife, so he had to go find someone better. I had it coming. I didn't give him the sex he wanted. I wasn't a great housekeeper. I didn't cook the meals he wanted. I was too demanding. Sometimes I was cold and distant. What if all those things were true? What if you were cold and distant sometimes? What if you didn't always want to have sex when he did or weren't a great housekeeper? So what? Do you like the story that makes it okay for him to be unfaithful in the way that he was? Do you like that story? What's your answer? Guess what? All those things could be true. And you could also simultaneously be a great wife. What are the things you did well? What's the other side of the story? Did you encourage him? Did you apologize when you realized you were in the wrong? Did you do your best to take care of the kids and be a good mother to his children? Did you try to understand him and give him the benefit of the doubt again and again? I bet you did. You would not be listening to this podcast right now if you weren't the kind of person that is always trying to become better. He was responsible for his choices, period, no matter what, no exceptions. We can always look back and see where we could have done something a little different. So what? Learn from it and move on. In closing a chapter in your life, you get to tell the story. Don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it up to someone else. Don't give that away. What feels empowering to you? What offers compassion to you? And maybe even to him? What feels like love? What helps you to untether yourself from him and really move forward, whether you're staying married or not? Now, to that point, many of you are staying. Guess what? You get to do the same thing. You too can decide what happened. You can tell it in a way that is empowering to you and allows you to move forward. You can tell the story of your spouse that allows you to continue to love and care for him. We can make ourselves crazy trying to understand all the whys and the how did this happen. Yes, there's wisdom in getting some understanding. There is, for sure. But doing our own due diligence will not often give us the closure. We have to still decide. There's a fine line between doing our own due diligence and going down a black hole, down, and never coming out of it. Sometimes those answers will never be enough. As the expression goes, it can feel like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Get the information you need to make an informed decision, then create your own story of what happened, which will allow you to close one door and open the next. Don't leave the telling of your story to anyone else. Now, if the other person or people involved are open to a real, loving discussion, the goal here is to seek understanding and find some kind of common ground to work from, some shared meaning, some compromise. Now, I am not in any way condoning the behaviors of the spouse, but if you are to move forward, these discussions can be very healing to see where the other person was when they made the choices they did. See where their brain was, what meaning they were giving to the infidelity, and maybe to things going on inside the marriage. When you can look at it as objectively as possible, which I know can be very hard, you can take what you want to take and hand back the rest. You will know what's yours. You will know what's his. Okay, in my current marriage, sometimes my husband will be hurt by something I said. And when I find out what he made it mean, I'm like, wow, of course that hurt you. I know I wasn't thinking that at all, but I can understand if you were thinking that, why it would hurt. I can understand even if I don't agree, even if I know what my intentions were, and then I can communicate that and we can find some common ground and go on our merry way, right? We can have that discussion and move on. Now, I want to tell you some stories about a few clients, some are past, some are current, and how they have given themselves the gift of closure. Okay. One of them came to me after being divorced for 2 years, and he left her for another woman. And he had all kinds of reasons why he was ending the marriage. She came to me saying, I just am in so much pain still. I still just don't know what happened to my life. I don't understand what happened, why he left. I was willing. And every time she saw him, she felt really uncomfortable and miserable. And the work we've done together is of her telling the story in a way that is empowering to her so she can let go and move on. She gave me all the information. She told me all the things that he said to her. And I pushed back and said, is that true? What is true here? Is that true? How do you know? Sometimes there were things that she said, yeah, I could have done better at that. But then I asked her, okay, what did you try to do in your marriage? Well, I tried to always communicate. I tried to apologize if I needed to. Okay, wonderful. So anyway, with this particular client, as we dug through, she got to a place where she realized that he kind of had made up some stories about her, and many of them were not true. Many of them. And with that information, she was able to, from a really clean place, hand it back to him, and not like literally saying, hey, you said this and you said this, and I don't own that. Not like that at all. More in her own brain, just going, nope, I'm not taking that on, and handing it right back. Okay. That's what she did with some of those stories. And then she was able to tell the story in a way that felt empowering. He made this choice. He made this choice because of X, Y, and Z. I had nothing to do with that choice. I was a good wife to him. I supported him. I took good care of our family. And this is the choice he made. And I'm moving forward. In our last call, which was last week, I asked her, I said, okay, when we first started, you were thinking about him a lot. And you're feeling sad and mad and hurt and all the things. And I said, where are you at now with that? Her answer was, I don't think about him at all, ever. She said, in fact, the last time I saw him, which was at one of their kids' games, she saw him and was like, who's that guy? It's like she almost didn't even recognize him. He physically looked different to her. She did not have any pangs of pain. It was more like, that's this person that I was married to. I'm not married to him anymore. And she's in a great spot. She was able to give herself closure. She did not wait for him. Very similar situation with another client where he left her. She was left reeling, wondering, blaming herself, feeling less than. And I took her through the same process, really sorting out what's true, what's not true. What are you handing back to him? What are you taking responsibility for that you don't want to take responsibility for, that you want to hand back? And over time, she was able to do it. She was able to give herself closure, to give herself love and grace and forgiveness for the part that she wanted to clean up in herself, the parts that she wanted to own, and hand back the rest and give herself closure and let go and move forward. One more. This is a client who chose to stay in her marriage. We had many conversations of her wondering what happened, how could this happen, how could this be? And I took her through and helped her determine what happened, helped her determine where he made choices that had absolutely nothing to do with her. I helped her come to her own truth of what she wanted to believe about her husband. She still wanted to believe that he was good and that he made a mistake, and that she chose to stay. She chose to want to continue to build a life with him. But it came from a place of closure. It came from a place of being able to shut the door to the past and rebuild a life together. In all three of these cases, they decided that they had all the information they needed, everything they needed, and then they chose to let it go. And they chose to move forward and to give themselves the gift of closure. You can give yourself closure too. You don't have to wait. You can decide. You can dig through. You can ask, what am I responsible for? How did I show up in ways that maybe are not the way that I want to be. But every time, their choices are always theirs. Because however you showed up, it's always the other person's choice to interpret it how they want, to decide what they make it mean. That is on them, my friends. They chose to make the choices they did. We can decide that we want to show up in different ways. We can decide that we want to grow in certain ways, but we can also tell the story in a way that is empowering. I know that you people listening are good people. I know that you're good. I know that you have good intentions. I know you have good hearts. And I know some of you have made mistakes yourself that you're not proud of. What does grace sound like? Forgiveness for yourself. Giving yourself grace that you're human, flawed, and always will be. You always will be, my friends. So will I. What does grace sound like? What does it feel like? How can you give yourself compassion? How can you look at the situation and decide what happened from a place that shows love for you so you can let it go and move forward? If you're choosing to stay married and staying in the relationship, how can you choose to see this story as one of empowerment of where you're going? How can it make you stronger? How can it be a building block for something that needed to tear things down to be able to start from scratch and building the most amazing relationship? How is that possible? How is this the crisis that your marriage needed to shake things up and help you learn the way that you want to be married? It really can be a gift. You really can give yourself that story and then you make it true. That's what I have for you, my friends. Thank you for being here. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Heal from Infidelity podcast. If you would like to be kept in the know about upcoming free classes, new podcast episodes, and other ways of working with me, go subscribe to my weekly email. You can subscribe at AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. Again, it's AndreaGiles.com/lies-about-infidelity/. I will see you next time.